Well then, let's jump right into it. And as Sam said, please feel free to ask any questions as we go along the way. I love to be interrupted. So our goal today is just to talk with you about what our teacher education program is, some of the highlights, and then what you do if you're interested in applying. All right. This is a photograph of our building, and you can see across the top, commit 1 year to become an exceptional teacher. And I would like to emphasize the word commitment. It's a very intense 1 year program where you will be living and breathing teaching and spending most of your waking hours developing into the quality, exceptional teacher that you would like to be. It's definitely not an easy program because it's full, but it's doable. And when you get to the end, it's definitely worth it. So we offer 3 credentials. And it sounds like there are people interested in all 3, although it seems single subject English is the winner. But we do have the education specialist credential, which qualifies you to teach either in a mild to moderate setting or a setting for students with extensive support needs. We have the single subject program, which qualifies you to teach both junior high and high school. And the subject areas that we have are science, math, English, history, social science, and world languages. And then we have the elementary program, of which I am the coordinator, as I said earlier. And this qualifies you, this credential, to teach grades K through 8 in self-contained classrooms. And we actually have some student teaching placements in TK classrooms, or the year before traditional kindergarten.
And so we have some people kind of interested in both special ed and elementary.
Yes.
Would you mind talking about perhaps any overlaps that are there?
Mod
might be a little bit different.
Yeah, this is why we love Samantha. She's prompting me. Yeah, an exciting thing is that we've worked really hard to have our elementary program closely aligned with the ed specialist program. And because this is the way it is in schools and the way it should be in schools, where ed specialist teachers and general ed teachers are working hand in hand. So a lot of your classes are taken together, your English language arts class, the majority of your classes are taken with elementary and ed specialist candidates together. And we're also working on placing you as much as we can at the same sites. We're building that capacity. But I think that that's one thing that we're really excited about and is quite unique about our teacher ed program. Okay, so what makes our program unique or different? And one thing that is quite exceptional is that you earn your credential and your master's degree in 12 months. So you begin in late June and then you end the following early June. And at that point, you would have both your credential and your master's degree. I will say that the master's component is optional. So you can do the credential only. And then we have what we call a returning cohort, where you do the master's in the early years of your teaching practice. They're both excellent options, but I know one thing that attracts people to our program is the fact that you can get both in 12 months, which puts you at an advantage when you're looking to be hired, because you're higher on the salary schedule coming in with both. That said, that is not what I would say is the selling point of our master's degree. It's not a go to the library to get your master's and write a paper. It's an inquiry or a questioning into your actual own practice as a teacher and the issues that you are passionate about and would like to look at more deeply. So if you're concerned that English learners maybe are not being fully included, or also students with identified special needs, or you believe that art might be valuable to be integrated into the curriculum, you can choose to look more deeply into that question and really try to implement some things with students and see what you learn from this inquiry. You will, in June, you'll have a paper that you write, a short inquiry research paper, and then you will also have a small group of candidates that you're working with that are interested in the same thing that you are, same things that you are, and in that way you'll share data with each other and create a poster session that integrates the learning that you've all done. So the idea or the highlight is deeper understanding and higher earning potential. Any questions about that? Because I know several of you had, one of you at least had said you were wanting to do this two at once. Okay, Sam, then I think let's move to the next slide. So these cogs or gears that are working together represent some of our strengths and the fact that all of the strengths work together for a holistic impact toward the big gear at the bottom right, which is efforts aimed to narrow the achievement gap. So if you go right above that, we have full immersion in the student teaching classroom from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, as it says, to strengthen your practice in practice. And then in all three of our different programs, they're designed with a developmental sequence at the base. So your learning across time builds. We have very close mentoring and supervision. You'll have a real opportunity to get to know who your supervisor is, and they will be there as your great support along with your cooperating teacher throughout the year. And another powerful thing is that your connection with your single cohort, which is all year. And I think, does that bring us to the next slide, Samantha? Yeah, I want to speak a bit about the fact that we have one cohort per year for each program. Our program is really all about relationships and deep learning that we believe happens through your interaction with others. So we're a very intimate program, and because of these small cohorts, you will build lifelong relationships with your colleagues. If you're in the single subject program, there are a total of 40 to 50 single subject student teacher candidates, but that's divided into smaller cohort groups of 8 to 10. For example, the English and the math cohorts would each have 8 to 10 app candidates, and then you work together across the year, meeting as a group on a weekly basis. In the ESC program, there's a total of 15 candidates and 8 in each of the areas, mild, moderate, and education, ESN. Why am I drawing a blank, Samantha?
Extensive support needs.
Extensive support needs. And then in the MST program, we have 30 to 40 students, and you're divided up into smaller groups of 4 to 8 based on the school at which you're placed. And you are placed at that school across the year. So as I say, your supervisor and your fellow teacher candidates become your very valued colleagues and resources that if history proves anything out, they will probably most likely be your lifelong teaching resources and friends. Our philosophy as a program is that learning to teach and the theory of teaching happen simultaneously, as in practice and learning about that practice and what it means. So we have a tight integration between what happens here at the university and what happens at the school site. Because I know that your passion is to be a teacher. So where you're excited to be is in the school with kids. And that's why we have you there as much as possible. And then in terms of our classes, everything that you do in your student teaching classroom is directly related to the students that you're teaching, and making sure that you are thinking deeply about the content, making the content accessible to all the different students that are represented in your classroom. So again, it's a 1 year, it's a full year. We start actually in the student teaching placements before school starts. You get to spend some time with your cooperating teacher before the kids actually come. And then you are in the classroom until the last day of school at the end of the year. So you're very much a part of the school community where you're placed. And I will also just talk a little bit about the fact that the schools that we work with, we call them our partner schools. And we say that because we really believe that teacher education happens simultaneously at the school site and at the university. And our partner schools really value what a teacher candidate or student teacher brings, and they consider you as co-teachers in the classrooms where you're placed. And they also are supportive of our program and believe it's high quality. I would say, I don't know what percentage, I would ask Sam or Nadia on this, but a high percentage, I think probably more than 50% of our cooperating teachers are actually graduates of UCSB TEP.
Seems definitely over 50%, though I haven't calculated.
Definitely over 50%. Any questions at this point?
I have one.
Yes, and Andrea.
Yes. You know, with the recent pandemic and COVID-19, what are these classrooms going to be looking like, and what standards are going to be in place for our safety in the classrooms? And is that going to be changing at all this next year? Or do you guys have, I know it's still really relatively soon, but as we plan this next year in joining the program, how is that going to look for us?
That's a really powerful and important question that you ask. And I'll try to keep the answer short. We go along with whatever guidelines the state and the federal government have in place. And we do what's happening in the schools. Our goal is to have you in schools as long as schools are open. But fortunately, we also have all really learned a lot this year about remote instruction and the power of remote instruction. So our candidates for this incoming year, and you'd be a year out, at this point, although the university will be closed, it'll be remote instruction for the university over the summer. Our candidates will actually come back in August with the hope that they will be able to be in classrooms with kids if they're open. And if the instruction is remote, they'll still have an opportunity to work and co-teach with their cooperating teachers and with their small groups at the university. We know that this coming year is probably going to be a hybrid of remote and in-person instruction. We're hoping that there will be a vaccine by early in the year next year, and maybe things will look more, I don't want to use the normal, but more like what schooling has looked like in the past, except I want to just say we're all about 21st century teaching. And we're really realizing that there's a lot of power to some things being done in different and remote ways. And we've always been thinking about that, but this has been a really amazing opportunity to learn more about that for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. What will your year look like? And again, this is a picture of one of the small groups that I told you about that's placed. These candidates, this was a couple, year before last, last year. And they're placed at 2 separate sites, some of them in a dual language immersion setting in Carpinteria, and that's their supervisor waving her hand in the orange dress. So the next slide will just give you a sense of what the year looks like, and I think this is really accurate. It shows how across the year. Some of the time you're at UCSB, and some of the time you're in the K-12 schools. Again, it's that idea of theory and practice going hand in hand. So in the summer, you're doing foundational coursework and you're on campus all day, all 5 days of the week. And then, as I mentioned earlier, student teaching in the K-12 schools begins in mid-August. In the fall, the coursework is focused on helping you think about designing and delivering curriculum for all the different types of learners that are in your in the California classrooms. And then you are part-time student teaching, and the focus there is growing from observation to taking over teaching for a short period of time. And then in the winter, the coursework continues. It's sort of this half-time model, with a focus at UCSB on observation and reflection of your teaching. And again, part-time student teaching in a new placement, and taking on more responsibilities. And then in the spring, your coursework focuses on developing as a professional educator, and you are actually having your classes in the evening and full-time student teaching. And the next slide, so that's 5 days a week. The next slide shows you what a typical week looks like in the fall for each of the 3 programs. So in the multiple subject program, you can see that you are in the schools Monday through Thursday and at the university on Friday. On Monday, you're in the school in the morning and taking classes in the afternoon. Tuesday, you are in the school all day and planning with your cooperating teacher after school. Wednesday and Thursday look like Monday. And for the Ed Specialist program, it's, as I say, very similar to the model that we have in the multiple subject program, because a lot of the classes go hand in hand. And then in the single subject program, Mondays you're in school until 3 o'clock, at the university from 4 to 7. Tuesdays, you have the whole day at the school. Wednesday, you are in school from 7:30 to 3, at the university in the evening, and Friday, all day at the university. So there's so much more that I would like to say, but because I'm super passionate about the profession of teaching and our program, and how our program really strives to make you the best quality teacher that you can be. We go, you give 100% and we give it back. And I hope as you look at these values of UCSB TEP students, as you look these over, you feel like they resonate with your beliefs about education, because they're critical to who we are and how we teach ourselves and how we prepare you all to teach the diverse population you will. We believe education is important. We believe schools should be diverse, that the diversity is an asset rather than a deficit. Our candidates hopefully are lifelong learners, as all of us that teach in the program are. We're emphasizing students driving their own learning and the importance of relationships and an advocacy for all students, particularly underserved students, getting a best quality education. Is there anyone that would like to speak to one of these as being important? Or Samantha, have I spoken too long and we have to be done?
I always love hearing from students, so
Is there,
anyone would like to share?
is there anyone that would like to share?
I feel like for me, I'm a first generation student who's like studying STEM. And one of the things that motivated to keep doing my major was wanting to serve as an advocate, or I like the term advocate, but more like a mentor for students, especially students who don't come from families that are that are college educated or low income like myself. So like looking at this like makes me really happy because that's one of my goals in like continuing my education.
Excellent. And I just want to emphasize that we try to make sure that all of the schools that we work in will provide you with opportunities to work with typically underserved students. Thank you for that. Is there anybody else?
Do you guys partner with schools in Ventura?
We currently do not partner with schools in Ventura.
Okay.
We work with schools in ranging from Carpinteria into Santa Barbara to Goleta, and also I believe we're at Santa Ynez High School. Is that correct, Samantha?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. We have been. And we also have been in Carpinteria. But the partnership model is really important, and the fact that if you're all the way in Ventura, it's a long way to come for your classes at the university. But we may be adding some of those sites back because we had some wonderful relationships going in both directions. Another good question. All right, then. Sam, I think I'll turn it over to you. Before I do that, I'm just going to tell people I'm signing off, but please feel free to, you'll get my contact information from Sam, as well as the contact information from the other program coordinators. And we're all eager and anxious to have an opportunity to speak with you. So I'll just say ta-ta for now.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll be moving into more of the application side of the program. So if there are any further questions on what our program looks like, or anything else related to kind of the structure and nature of our program, we're happy to chat about that now before we dive into application details. I don't know why I whispered that, but alrighty. Well then, I also want to note, if you were just here to learn a kind of general about our program, I will not be offended if you, like Sarah, choose to leave at this time. That is a-okay. As we'll be focusing on what exactly you need to apply to our program next. I do want to note, kind of echoing Andrea's question about COVID, is that a lot of this, the deadlines have not been updated because we are not yet sure exactly what things will be looking like as far as when testing centers will all be reopening. So when can we really be having a clear expectation of when you need to be getting these things done? So this is all from our past application cycle for the 2020-2021 academic year. during the summer, we hope to be updating this for 2021-22. So please note, dates are definitely old and they will change. We hope we can keep them as similar as possible, but some of that might change based on the situation with COVID. So note that, and moving into how to apply. The very first piece of advice is to please look at our application handbook. It pretty much has all of the information that you need as far as instructions for how to apply, where to go as far as links for everything. It's your one-stop shop for all of that. Again, that is currently for the 2020-2021 year that's linked here, but it'll be in the same place once we get that updated for the next year. We'll be breaking this down into 4 steps. I will be primarily focusing on the first step, completing your application prerequisites. The second one, the e-app won't open until September, but we'll cover a few things that are good to note. Supporting documents are really any extra state requirements, so we'll highlight some of those things, but again, aren't really needed until you would actually be applying in January of 2021. And then attending campus interviews, we'll talk a bit about what that looks like, but wouldn't be happening again until actually February or March of 2021. Our past years, our application deadline has been around the end of January or February 1st. We try to keep that on a weekday so we can be able to answer any last minute questions that you have, but definitely anticipate a February 1st-ish date for the application deadline of 2021. So prerequisites, what are we hoping? By this, I mean, what is good to be thinking about well ahead of time? It's not necessarily something that you need to be doing in undergrad or while you're going to school prior to this, but what are things that you really should be focusing on sooner rather than later? The first is pre-professional experience. We'll go into more detail on all of these in the coming slides. In the past, we've asked for 40 hours of experience total, with 20 hours by the time you apply, and the remaining 20 by the time you would actually start the program. So you would apply in February 1st, end of January, and then start the program that coming June, following June. The basic skills requirement, which we'll chat about what are ways you can fulfill that, will ask to be passed by the application deadline. And then the subject matter requirement will ask to be taken by the application deadline. These two are really the dates that are most likely to change if we were to have a change due to COVID, due to the testing center availability. So pre-professional experience, what does that mean? That is getting experience in the K-12 classroom. It's really to help you solidify why are you wanting to be a teacher? What exactly is it about teaching that draws you, that makes you excited about teaching? And if you're still wavering on what exactly it is that you want to get your credential in, it's to help you kind of figure that out as well. So that's why we ask for 20 hours before you apply to help you solidify what exactly it is that you're wanting to teach and why that is. The goal is to kind of have that help you write application materials and stuff like that as well. And then 20 by the start of the program, or July 1st. We often get, what exactly do you mean by pre-professional experience? That can be volunteering, that can be work as an instructional aide, that can be work as a substitute teacher. Those would all count as hours. Hours in an after-school setting are not really your typical K-12 setting, but you're still working with students, would count for half of those hours, but we would still like at least half in the K-12 arena, since that can look different. If you do have any questions, we have a pre-professional coordinator. Her name is Katie Blackwell, and she's going to be your best resource for that. She's also able, if you're in the Santa Barbara area and would like experience, to be able to help you out with getting some of that experience. Obviously, since we are all remote right now, getting that experience will be challenging at this exact time. So again, these dates and hours might fluctuate as well, depending on what all shakes out with COVID, or perhaps will remote options be available as well to cover that time. So that's definitely something we'll be looking at and updating as well. Any questions with pre-professional experience?
I have one.
Yeah.
Can you do it in the preschool setting, or does it have to be in the K through 12?
Great question. I would say preschool would definitely count for at least half, and then I would check with Katie Blackwell for if it could count for all of it. I think it really depends on how structured it is as a preschool. Any other questions? Sweet. Basic skills requirement. Most people who have heard of the basic skills requirement are most familiar with the CBEST exam, and that is a really convenient way to fulfill that basic skills requirement. There are a few other options, though, to fulfill it, which, if you have attended college recently, may make your life a little bit easier. So qualifying SAT or ACT scores would count. Qualifying scores in the California State University programs would count exams, and qualifying AP test exams would count. You will note that it's not the overall score for the most part. It's going to be what the specific math and English scores were. So you can't like cross over SAT math and ACT English scores. It has to be all from that same test that you received, the qualifying scores in math and English. Same thing goes with AP or the CSU exams. I don't expect you all to remember your specific subject scores from ACT and SAT, but just know that is an option if you're able to look that up and find those scores to fulfill the basic skills requirement. If those aren't going to work for you, totally okay. The CBEST is a great option as well, and that'll be one of those areas, again, that depending on COVID will kind of fluctuate on the deadline. But we are hoping that for the most part we can have those passed before the application deadline. Any questions with basic skills?
I have one.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
So for Cal Poly Pomona, I know they're going through like or they're having like their liberal studies majors take certain classes throughout their entire undergrad, so their CBEST can be waived. Would I still have to be able to, if that was waived for me, would I still have to take it to meet the basic skills requirement?
I'm thinking that might be actually a waiver program for the C-sets, in which case it might qualify. Can I chat with you later?
Yes, of course. And I might be mistaken. It might be the C-set, but I just wanted to ask. I don't know.
No, the thing is there's another option with the C-sets that you can add an additional writing test. It's just a very lengthy process. So in general, it's not recommended on our end for fulfilling the basic skills requirement. But if all of those classes waive it, then it might indeed also fulfill the big CBEST.
Okay, thank you.
To look into that,
Yeah.
Angie, I think you had a question too.
I did. So say I got through the entire program and I'm unable to pass the CBEST or the CSAT. what happens then? So I still, it's my understanding that I'm still not a credentialed teacher, because by the state of California, if I can't pass these basic exams, then I've gone through the program for...
So you can't receive your credential if you have not passed the basic skills or the subject matter requirements. That's why we really want people to do these prior to applying, especially with the intensive nature of our program. It gets really challenging to be taking these tests and student teaching all day and going to classes in the evening and balancing all of that. So,
Okay, so you definitely recommend taking these exams, passing them, and then moving forward with the program, which makes sense to me, time-wise, money-wise, etc.
correct. I will also note for our program, or for any credential, you can't do, at this time anyway, your full-time student teaching placement without passing the CBEST and CSETs. So you would actually need to extend your time in our program so you could complete those full-time student teaching pieces.
That's good to know, because Channel Islands is a little different, so I'm glad that you said that, so thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. All right, so we kind of touched on it, subject matter competency. So basic skills is kind of just generally getting a sense of your basic math, English, writing skills. Subject matter is going to be more specific to whatever program or credential you're interested in pursuing. So if you're interested in those single subject programs, the subject matter you're going to take will be tests, very specific to English or very specific to math. If you're interested in multiple subject or special ed, there is a multiple subject matter competency that kind of goes into more detail on a different breadth of knowledge. So that Cal Poly program that was mentioned might be this option number 2 here of a approved subject matter waiver program. So some colleges have majors that are promising they're fulfilling all of the knowledge in their courses to meet all of the content that you need to know to have that subject matter competency. UCSB has only a subject matter waiver program for math. So if you are a math major at UCSB, you might be fulfilling that. Otherwise, your best option is your only other option is the CSET exams. These are really designed to test your subject matter knowledge. So they are challenging, and it's not uncommon for people to not pass them, especially if they have not studied. So this is why we're really putting this emphasis first and a prerequisite to really be preparing for and studying for these exams. As Andrea mentioned and brought up, it's really helpful if you are getting these done sooner rather than later, because if you need them to be a credentialed teacher, and if you start the program and cannot get those done, it really is extending your time. In the past years, we've asked that people have taken these by the time of our application deadline and have them passed by the time they start the program. Again, with COVID, this could be changing as far as overall timing, but I will say, again, in general, since the intensive nature of our program is so fast, it is, in general, a very good idea to get these done sooner rather than later. Any questions with subject matter? Sweet. Again, even if testing centers aren't open at this exact time, they're definitely something you can be studying for and preparing for, making sure you're ready to roll as soon as you are able to get into a testing center. So those are kind of the big things to really be thinking about, especially right now, considering where we're at with the application cycle. Everything else is going to be after the application really opens online. So we'll highlight some of those things to be aware of, but I'm not planning to spend too much time on them unless you have specific questions. So the e-app is opening typically in September, and you will complete the Graduate Division e-application. It's pretty straightforward. You can see on the right-hand side all of the different subject areas, what they'll be asking for you to complete. Kind of a note here, letters of recommendation. We often get asked, how many do we need and who would you like to write them? We'll ask for 3 letters of rec. You can complete up to 4. And we recommend, first of all, that people know you and are actually writing about you. And then second, kind of thinking of who can write about different strengths of yours. So it's really helpful, since we're a teaching program, to have somebody who's seen you working with students and can write about your strengths as a teacher in the classroom. Other common ones might be a supervisor, somebody who's seen kind of a work ethic strength of yours, or a professor, somebody who can speak about your academic strength and what you might bring to the M.Ed, that kind of thing. But really trying to think about how can I present as broad of a picture of myself as possible, and who can write about different strengths of mine. And then the other section that is often we get a lot of questions about is the statements and supplemental documents section. This one here, the important thing to really note is that there are questions that are pre-filled on the e-app. We're going to ask you to not write to those and answer the prompts that are in our application handbook. The reason being, we can't change the prompts on the e-app, and they're very focused on kind of a PhD level, like dissertation style program, and we want to know more about why you want to be a teacher. So just a note to save yourself some time and take a look at our application handbook prior to filling that out. This past year, the application fee was $120. Typically, it's going to stay around there, though this year they did raise it from our last year, so it could change. And then again, our deadline is typically end of January or February 1st. Any questions with the e-app? All right. Other things to be aware of as far as state requirements that are going to be coming up for you. We talked about basic skills and subject matter. So other things to be aware of are certificate of clearance. That is essentially a background check that goes to the state. This may be different if you've just volunteered in a classroom or sent a background check to a specific district or company. You may still need to be doing the certificate of clearance again. There is a constitution requirement required of all teachers. You need to have TB test clearance and a CPR certification. I do want to note that we do host CPR training certification classes in the summer if you are having an expiring permit or need to get your certification. And then lastly, we have on-campus interviews. We do interview everyone who applies and then RSVPs to our interviews because we know there's only so much they can learn about you on paper, and teaching is usually a very interactive and face-to-face profession. So we want to really be able to see who you are as a person and what you bring to teaching in a more intimate environment. And they are typically group interviews, so you'll be with people within your program that you're applying for, and typically about 5 people or so will be in your group. Certain cohorts do go into individual portions as well. Our interview dates will typically be throughout February or that very first weekend in March. This might we'll have to see kind of where we're at next year, to be honest, as far as being able to be open and doing in-person ones, or if they'll have to be remote, and see where we're at with that, unfortunately. Any questions or interviews? Alrighty. I believe we are at about an hour then, and this is kind of the end of all of our application questions. Do we have any final application questions?
Hi. For the constitution requirements, is there an exception if we took like AP government or AP US history? I know UCSB accept those as substitute for like poli-sci 12.
Great question. The tricky thing is it depends on how it shows up on your transcript. So if it lists the course that it is substituting on your transcript, then yes, it will count. But if it just shows up as AP test, then it will not.
Thank you.
It's a very bureaucratic answer, unfortunately, but it's true. Any other questions with the application? So I have some financial aid information on the following slides, and so I will be covering that, but I do want to be aware of the time. So if you are needing to bounce again, no hard feelings. But we'll move into some financial assistance. So our big question is always, what does the program cost? So tuition and fees for summer and your 3 academic quarters will be around $18,000 based on the past year estimates. How can you cover that? Well, if you are a Cal Grant recipient, currently, you can be able to extend that Cal Grant for the next academic year. Stipulation with that is that it does need to be within 15 months of your last disbursement. So if you are currently receiving it and are an undergrad, you would have about a year from ending your undergrad to be able to extend that Cal Grant. And that would cover the cost of fall, winter, and spring tuition. Our program also has block grants, so that's something that would be awarded at the time of admission. You would complete what we ask. We ask you to complete an optional financial aid statement in your application, and so these are need-based based on that. Those have typically ranged from about $2,000 to $6,000 and are awarded by each specific credential. We also have privately funded fellowships, so certain donors have decided to give money to our program, which is great. Because of that, we do award those after the program has started. So we'll be sending out applications to the students at the end of summer for those private fellowships. So those are kind of all programmatic ones. The TEACH grant is a federal grant, and that is about $4,000 worth of grant funds. But you do need to be aware that there are some stipulations with that. You are signing up to teach in a low-income field or low-income area and a high-need field. In California, that tends to be most districts, barring like Montecito. So that's good, but you do need to submit this paperwork to the federal government. And if you do not do it correctly or do not do it on time, it converts to a loan. So that's definitely something to be aware of as you are considering the TEACH grant. Otherwise, as far as financial aid available to all students will be the Federal Direct Unsubsidized Loan and Graduate Plus loans. We do have some aid specific to different credentials as well. So if you are considering special ed as a credential, we actually have a partnership with the county called the Local Solutions Grant. And what this is it's a reimbursement of any debt you collect while obtaining your credential. So it is an application that you would receive at the end of our program and then be able to be reimbursed for debt incurred. It is available to all ESC applicants or education specialist applicants. So the amount will fluctuate depending on how many applicants have submitted an application. You can receive up to $20,000, and last year I think the average award was about 7,000 or so, but it's important to note that was actually going back in time a few years as well. So they covered both our current credential year and a few prior credential years. So the pool would be smaller is what I'm trying to say, and the amount would be higher typically their next coming years. For science and math candidates, there is the Noyce Scholarship, and so this is funded by the National Science Foundation, and you would be eligible to receive $14,500 or $15,000 based on the credential that you are interested in receiving for your science or math credential. There is a separate application for this that is a little bit after application deadline, and that will be available on our website. We also do send out this application to any science and math applicants, so they're all aware of that opportunity. And then finally, I just want to note for Dream Scholars, unfortunately at the federal level, Dream Scholars are not eligible to receive any federal grants come graduate school. So it's really important that you complete the California Dream Act application so that you can be eligible for any program grants or state grants. So like the Cal grant, those block grants that we mentioned, you would still be eligible for as a Dream Scholar. If you are comfortable, it's also helpful to let us know that in any written materials, just so that we are aware of your situation and know any of those federal grants and loans are not available to you as well. All right, that's what I got with financial aid. Any final questions before we sign off? Okay, I will stick around for a little bit if you have anything that you want to talk about more personally. Otherwise, we'll be sending out a message from our TEP app email here with this PowerPoint, so you're more than welcome to contact us there as well. It was nice seeing you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.